In the gloom of a seemingly peaceful home, long-buried secrets begin to surface, threatening to tear apart every relationship and every trust that has ever been built. When Bill and Dani's unexpected arrival is met with Andre's fury, an explosive chain reaction erupts out of control. Amid anger, panic, and grief, three people are faced with the hardest decisions of their lives, facing the consequences of actions they cannot undo. This is a story of betrayal, inner turmoil, and life-threatening moments where emotion leads and reason fails. Andre felt his heart threatening to burst from his chest as he saw Bill and Dani step into his home, appearing without any explanation, without a single warning. All calm thoughts, all rationality he had relied on to restrain himself in tense situations, disintegrated instantly. Anger surged, rising so violently that he felt as if his entire body were being controlled by a force beyond his grasp. Every step Bill took, every glance Dani gave him, pierced through his pride and trust, the very trust Andre had once given them. The betrayal he sensed, even if not fully proven, burned like a wildfire, consuming all the memories he had cherished, all the faith he had built. He lunged at Bill with uncontrollable fury, every punch not merely a physical act but the release of a pent-up past, doubts, and unspoken jealousy. In the struggle, Andre felt as if he and Bill had become one in a clash of raw energy, and in that suspended moment, Dani, the one person he had always sought to protect, stood directly between them. It was only a fleeting instant before the knife in his hand slipped, slicing through the air and embedding itself deep into Dani's abdomen. Time seemed to freeze. Andre felt the wound he had inflicted, but more terrifying than the physical damage was the collapse of his spirit. Anger immediately turned into a chaotic fear. He looked at Dani, saw her wide eyes and ashen face, twisted in pain and shock. No words could explain what had just occurred, and Andre realized that mere seconds ago, he had destroyed everything that remained between them. His rage had driven him to an action even the darkest of his dreams could not conjure. Bill stepped back, his eyes wide with fear yet filled with anger and self-defense. He felt deep remorse and guilt for having become the target of Andre's uncontrollable fury, yet he could not escape the terror of seeing Dani hurt. Memories of past conflicts, lingering suspicions, and unspoken words surged in his mind, weighing heavier than his trembling body. In that moment, Bill realized that every action, every choice in the past had led to this instant where trust was obliterated, where the consequences of betrayal, whether real or imagined, became vividly and painfully undeniable. Dani sat on the floor, the pain radiating throughout her body, yet the greater anguish was the bewilderment and horror at Andre's actions, the person she had once relied upon as her protector. A sense of betrayal surged, not because of deliberate intent, but because she recognized how fragile every relationship and trust in her life truly was. The physical pain interwove with mental anguish, rendering Dani nearly helpless, aware of the fragility of her life, the fragility of trust, and the fragility of every decision she had ever made. While Andre stood there, trembling all over, sweat dripping from his brow, he felt every beat of his heart. The struggle between raging fury and overwhelming fear consumed his mind. Every rational thought tried to pull him back, but rationality was powerless against the sensation of having harmed the one he loved most. He felt trapped in a whirlpool of emotion with no escape, anger over perceived betrayal, fear over the consequences, guilt for his actions, and despair at his inability to undo them. Bill observed Andre, recognizing the desperation intertwined with fury in his eyes. He felt a surge of indignation, yet also profound sorrow, understanding that Andre, despite his madness, was a wounded human being, a soul cornered into the brink. Bill faced a harrowing decision. Should he intervene by any means, risking confrontation with Andre's violence, or allow events to unfold and face the catastrophic consequences? Each choice was perilous, and Bill knew that a single misstep could destroy everything. Dani, severely wounded, still tried to meet Andre's gaze, seeking an explanation, yet all she saw in his eyes was the chaos of a mind being torn apart. She sensed that Andre's uncontrolled rage was aimed not only at Bill but also at her, at everything she had ever trusted. She felt the emptiness inside him, the pain transformed into violence, and realized that their relationship had now been irreparably shattered. In these moments of extreme tension, the space around them became suffocating. Every movement, every breath felt like a countdown to a psychological collapse. Andre realized that his violence had not only hurt Dani but had fractured himself, exposing weaknesses, fears, and doubts long buried. Bill felt the crushing weight of responsibility, to protect himself, to protect Dani, while simultaneously confronting Andre's fury, a monster who was both friend and enemy. Dani experienced the mingling of despair and survival instinct, not only enduring physical pain but struggling with the sense of abandonment, betrayal, and having to make life or death decisions in utter helplessness. Each passing second amplified fear, anger, remorse, and despair, merging into a colossal wave that engulfed all in extreme tension. Every action carried consequences, every thought felt like a sharp blade, and none of them could escape this vortex. Andre realized that his rage was not a fleeting moment but the culmination of all pain, betrayal, and doubt buried deep over time. Bill understood that everyone's survival depended on his ability to remain calm and make precise decisions in an impossible situation. Dani, though injured, had to confront whether to trust or surrender, to survive or succumb to despair. In a moment seemingly devoid of escape, the three faced the true reflection of themselves, Andre with fury and regret, Bill with anxiety and torment, Dani with pain and despair. Each emotion was powerful, profound, inescapable, merging into a harrowing tableau of betrayal, inner conflict, and impossible choices. There was no salvation, no reconciliation, only internal chaos and the aftermath of a frenzied instant, where rage, betrayal, and suffering converged, creating an extreme point from which none could return. The moment passed, but the aftermath did not. The air around them was filled with the smell of fear, sweat, and blood, the physical traces of a frenzied rage, but even more powerful was the unhealed emotional wound. Andre stood there, his body shaking, his eyes wide open but seeing nothing but the image of what had just happened, playing over and over in his head like a never-ending nightmare soundtrack. He felt his heart pounding, not from anger anymore, but from a near-suffocating fear and guilt. Every rational thought, every belief, every memory of Dani and Bill was ripped away, leaving a hole in his soul that could never be mended. Bill stood by, eyes glued to Dani, trying to control the situation while confronting his own inner fear. He felt the fragility of everything, trust, friendship, even life. Every breath emphasized how one small mistake could cause everything to collapse. Regret, anger, self-reproach, all of it compressed into a heavy silence where no one could speak, where only despair, panic, and raw pain existed. Bill wondered, could he have done something else? Could he have saved Dani? Could he have stopped Andre from destroying himself? No clear answers, only helplessness and fear silently devouring each moment. Dani lay on the floor, pain coursing through her body, but even more terrifying was the realization of the betrayal and mental turmoil of the person she had once trusted. The physical pain was only part of it, the rest was the inner torment of realizing that the trust, love, and protection she had relied on had now turned into something so fragile that it could never be saved. Every heartbeat, every breath was a reminder of the fragility of life, of the fragility of trust, and of the fragility of all relationships. She felt trapped between life and death, between forgiveness and resentment, between wanting to hold on to everything and realizing that everything had changed forever. In that space, three people were caught in a whirlwind of emotions with no way out. Andre wanted to run away from guilt but couldn't leave Dani, Bill wanted to control the situation but felt helpless, and Dani wanted to understand but couldn't believe anything. They were all standing before the same invisible wall, where every action had consequences, where every emotion became a danger. Anger, fear, regret, and despair merged into a mental storm, tearing apart everything that once existed and creating an indelible scar in each person's mind. As the heavy breathing, the pounding heartbeat, and the pain merged into one, everything became eerily silent. There were no words to be said, no actions to be taken to reverse them. They were left with only themselves and their extreme emotions, standing on the fragile line between life and destruction, between forgiveness and resentment. And in that silence, they realized only one thing: life, trust, and relationships were more fragile than they had ever thought, and just a moment of losing control was enough to turn everything into ashes, leaving behind pain, regret, and endless struggle.